So this was Cute Bunny versus jowic, with Cute Bunny taking black and jowic taking white. So again, I think I've said it a couple times today. Definitely want to play sides before center, or sides before, excuse me, corner before sides, and then sides before center. So we still have a bunch of corner moves that are still left unplayed. A lot of Shamaris, a lot of 3/3s. We have a lot of side moves left unplayed, and now we're already going for Tengen. Probably a little bit questionable. Again, going for center before we even finish out the sides, questionable. So it ended up kind of becoming okay for white, I think. But because these two black moves at N13 and N7 were quite questionable. But just looking at the framework, white's built up a larger framework than black has. And both still have their corners invadable, and it's going to be hard to really make that much territory. And you can see it, right? Like, let's say we were to give black all of this territory here. How much is that? Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 15 points. But if you were to give white all the territory that's mapped out with the same move, so let's say, all right, 15, so that's 30, maybe a little bit more here. So we'll count that as 10, 10. So we're saying it's maybe 50-ish for black. Maybe a little bit more, corner 60. Something, we can say maybe black has it mapped out 65. If we were to give out everything to white, well, this is 60. This is another 10. This is another 10. This is probably another 10 or 15. So white has almost mapped out 90 points. It's not as solid as black's points per se, but it's a lot more. So even, 6 or 7 moves in, white would be ahead. Or I guess probably closer to 10 moves in, but.
Yeah, white's focusing too much on the middle, trying to grab the big area, but that's not how.
But I think even with white trying to do that, white's still ahead here. I would still give the advantage to white right now.
Really?
So because look at the map and look at the mapping of the board, right? Like white has more territory mapped out, right? We can say that for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. And so even if white doesn't get all of it, black's certainly not going to get all of it either. Right? Black's certainly not going to get all this either. But at least white has a larger framework that it could get. And we can probably say that this area for white and this area for black is probably about going to be a similar amount of points. And so now what we're focusing on is really this formation here and this white formation here. Right?
Yeah.
And I would argue that white's formation in the upper left is also larger than black's formation in the upper left too. But that's it's smaller potatoes, but I would definitely give the advantage to white, especially after this move. The theory behind this move is maybe questionable because it's all white here, and so the more moves you play here, the weaker. Like your stones may get a little stronger, but you're also making white stronger, which means that now you have these 2 stones that you have to worry about trying to live. It's going to be tough. This is just too small a move. I think right now, something over here, an invasion point here. These are the moves that you want to play. This move is small potatoes. The worst that's going to happen is black gets in here, and it's not that big a deal. Whereas I would much rather have my stone at 03. Because the alternative is, let's say that let's say you play here and white plays here. Okay, well, I've just mapped out an extra 10 points, whereas white really only mapped out an extra 3 or 4 points.
Yeah. But when you look at it aesthetically, you can see how N13 and N7 are super inefficient.
It's not that it's inefficient. It's just they're not really. I guess you can say inefficient, but they're just not mapping out any one thing. They're trying to do too much and aren't doing enough of anything. I think it's probably what's better to say, right? Like they're trying to map out the center influence, but because white's so strong here, it's going to be hard to actually keep all this. You still need to add another move here. And same with this. You still need to add another move here. You still need to add another move here in order to actually get all the sides that you're trying to map out. So H18 probably pretty small. J18 is effectively dame. There's no reason to answer right now. There's no, if white plays here, not a big deal. You can still ignore, and there's no weakness. Even if white plays like this, not a big deal. maybe if you really feel a little like you're afraid of the cut here or something like that, which is possible. Maybe you protect like this, and that'll protect the cut. But I think that playing elsewhere on the board is going to be larger. This is just too small at this point. We don't really want to play on the second line so early in the game, just because it doesn't map out very much territory, right? Like you can only get up to 19 points by playing on the second line, right? Like if you were to map out the entire thing, but if you play on the third line, you can get up to 38 points using the same amount of stones. So just that's kind of why we don't like playing on the second line. So black gets this fourth line move. It's putting a little pressure on this N2 stone as well. Again, I would still give the advantage to white, but it's black's making a little bit better use of its stones now. So again, still focusing on the wrong part of the board. We want to be focusing on the corners. There's so much space here for both sides to live on either side, either here or here or here or here, that all these moves in the center just seem silly. Probably a little too greedy for white here. I think if I were white, I would just play here and something like this, just try to get a little bit of gains. I think that because black is so strong here, it's going to be really hard to attack these 3 stones. So if I were white, I would just probably play something like this. Keep it simple. You get a little bit further into the black territory, and then come back and play a move like this, or come back and play a move like this. And white would certainly be ahead on board. Yeah, and it makes sense, right? Like this is all white's area, or this is all black's area here. White doesn't have any chance of connecting back to its friends. So if you don't have any chance to connect back to your stones, how are you going to expect to live if there's not enough space to make 2 eyes? And of course, white even had to come back and protect here, because if white did play here, black gets to push through here and completely destroy white's territory. So actually, the game right now, I think, is still in white's favor, but it got a lot closer with white losing these stones. Unfortunately, this cut doesn't work. It just ends up in a ladder. This move was much too passive. Now it gives. I think that black has too much strength over here for it to really become too problematic, but it's a lot more Aji than you really want to have to deal with. So for that reason, I think that just Atariing and capturing the stone would have been much better. So this is actually a really good shape to know. Black does have the time to play here, because if white were to jump here, black cuts, push through, block, block, block. Now there's a shortage of liberties here, and white can kill white stones all die. So black doesn't actually need to fear anything from these 4 white stones right now. And this is kind of classic shape when usually you'll see it with like 3 stones here, and black has a move on both sides over here. It's very easy to form a net by playing this move. And it doesn't matter if white plays If white plays here, you play like this, you still form that same net. And same on the other side. It's a little bit more complicated because of the Atari here, but even still, I think here it's going to be perfectly fine for black to kill these stones without too much issue. And I think that black would be perfectly alive here.